So Puerto Rico is a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous island with spectacular views and an exuberant, stunning culture. From their beaches to their history to a national forest with cascading waterfall, Puerto Rico has something to offer everybody. And the best part for U.S. citizens, since it's U.S. territory, you don't need a passport to enjoy this 5,515 square mile slice of paradise. They recently made some changes of how COVID-19 is being handled on the island, so I want to dive in and take a look and see what you need to know to travel to Puerto Rico right now during the pandemic. I would love to turn this into a series, so if you're thinking about going anywhere else, drop a comment down below, let me know where, and I'll do my research and I'll find out what we need to know.
And the alarming news tonight about the coronavirus.
The risk of contracting the virus on a plane appears to be in the same category as being struck by lightning.
Devastating at every level. The U.S. reporting more than 371,000 American lives lost.
To answer a major question, just how risky is it?
Before we start, I just want to say that COVID is serious and traveling inherently increases your risk to exposure. If you are going to travel, make sure you do it safely. Wash your hands, keep your social distance, and wear a mask. Before you go to Puerto Rico, there's a couple things you're going to need to do. First of all, everyone has to do a travel declaration form. We'll talk more about that in a second. Then, you either need to provide a COVID test that is negative within 72 hours of your travel, or you need to have plans to self-quarantine at your own expense for at least 14 days. Everyone needs to do the form, and then you need to do one of those two other things. The travel declaration form is available on Puerto Rico's government website. I will link that down in the description below. All adults 18 and over are required to complete this form. On this form, you're going to provide your basic information like your name, date of birth, passport or driver's license number, email, phone number, contact information. Then you have to fill out some questions indicating if you are traveling with minors that you are responsible for, if you have came in contact with people infected with COVID-19, and if you have received the COVID-19 vaccine. After completing all of that information, you'll go to the next screen where you can upload your negative COVID-19 molecular test. After doing so, the form will generate a QR code that you will provide when you arrive to Puerto Rico. If you do not provide that test, again, you will be required to quarantine for 14 days at your own expense. So, as your plane touches down in Puerto Rico, there's a couple things you need to be aware of. First of all, you have to wear a mask. If you don't, you're going to be subject to a fine. In the airport, there are going to be thermogenic cameras to take your temperature. Anyone that displays symptoms of COVID-19 will be tested there in the airport by the Puerto Rican National Guard. Now, when you're leaving the airport, they're going to scan that QR code that you have that was created by the travel declaration form, just to confirm that you have completed that form and that you can provide that negative COVID-19 molecular test within 72 hours of travel. So the next question on your mind for sure is going to be, where do you go after you leave the airport? Rideshares and Ubers are available. They are operating right now, even during COVID-19. There's just a couple changes. Everyone has to wear a mask, and no one is allowed to sit in the front passenger seat. So just be mindful of that when you get a rideshare or an Uber from the airport. Now, I said that they made some major changes recently to how COVID-19 is being handled on the island. The first one is that there is a curfew. Curfew had originally been up until this weekend from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. That has been shortened to 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. That curfew is in effect. No one can do anything outside of the curfew unless it's for an emergency. That is all across the island, including inside the common areas, inside hotels and resorts. So that's just something you want to be mindful of. The other big change is that public beaches are now open, which is great so you can get out in the sand and the waves. Just keep in mind that social distancing is still required and you have to wear a mask except for when you're swimming. Now, if you're looking for something to do besides hanging out at the beach, there's plenty of other options that you have available. Museums, casinos are all active and open at 30% capacity. There are plenty of options for tours that are available. I suggest finding something online that you're interested in and then reaching out to them through their website to see what kind of accommodations they're making during these times. And then if you're going to San Juan, Old San Juan is open and active. So just go out, see what kind of cool things there are, and just explore. Just do so safely. We also have to think about lodging. We have to think about where you're going to stay. Hotels, they're taking enhanced cleaning procedures to make sure everything is safe for everyone there. They're disinfecting luggage, they're taking temperature checks when you go in, and they are requiring masks in all public areas. They are allowed to operate pools for hotel guests at 30% capacity, so you can still swim while you're at your hotel. Just keep in mind that curfew is active from 11 p.m. till 5 a.m. and that's being enforced in hotels. If you're staying at a rental property like an Airbnb, they are doing enhanced cleaning as well. Same thing with the hotels. Just keep in mind with that there are currently some rules with Airbnb. First of all, only registered guests are allowed to be in the property, and you are not allowed to have large gatherings within those homes. If you're staying in San Juan in Puerto Rico, I highly suggest El Caribe Hilton. I did a full resort tour when I was there last year. It is a beautiful, beautiful hotel. I highly recommend it. I will link that down in the description below, and I'll leave a card up here. You're in Puerto Rico on vacation. One of the things you want to take advantage of is that great, delicious food they have. Restaurants are open at 30% capacity, and alcohol sales are available outside of the curfew hours. Restaurants are taking precautions to keep everybody safe. They've closed buffets and self-service dining options. Those are all closed down right now. When you're being served, servers have to wear masks and they have to wear gloves when serving, and they are not allowed to use reusable menus. So they're taking extra steps just to make sure that everyone is able to eat and everyone is able to stay safe. When you're done with your trip and you're finally ready to head home, just keep in mind that you still need to be cautious and you still need to be mindful. Keep that social distancing, keeping your masks on. The CDC recommends that 3 to 5 days after you arrive back from traveling, you get tested for COVID. And they recommend that you stay home for 7 days. If you do not get tested for COVID, they extend that stay home period to 10 days after traveling, just to make sure that if you were to get infected during your travel period, that you don't infect anyone else. So if you travel, make sure you travel safely. As we know with COVID, things are always changing, so I will leave links to all of my sources that I use for this information down in the description below for your use when you're planning your trip. If you guys do decide to go out there, just make sure you do it mindfully, get out and explore, but do it safely. With all that being said, San Juan, Puerto Rico, COVID travel guide. Corbin there, done that. Travel safe, my friends.